Hey folks, welcome to another tutorial using Fusion 360. Today I'm going to show you how to make the circuit holder for the laser lantern project. And I'm going to try to explain this as simply as I can in case this is your first time using Fusion 360. Uh, so let's build this as basically as we can, just using some very basic sketches and extrusions and a couple of other little features like a fillet and a hole and a mirror. Okay, so let's start. I'm going to close down my data panel where all my saved folders are, and let's open up a new design so that we're starting from scratch. This will probably be the screen that you see as you're starting off. To start, let's make a two-dimensional sketch. So there's the sketch button. When you're in 2D sketch mode, you're only going to be able to do two-dimensional things like making rectangles and circles and stuff like that. When you're out of sketch mode, when you hit finish sketch, then you'll be able to do 3D things to these shapes that you're making. So what we're making, we're going to start with a rectangle, except instead of starting with a 2-point rectangle, I want to actually use this point here, the origin, as the middle of my part so that I could use that as a mirror so that I don't need to do everything twice. I just need to do it once and then do a mirror for a few of these features. So what I'm going to do is make a center point rectangle. I'm going to start right in the middle. And I'm going to be reverse engineering this from a part that I already have. So I'm just going to throw out some numbers at you and get you to follow along. You can type in these numbers as you go. So I'm just going to go 40 millimeters wide. And then I'm going to hit tab. And it's going to be 50 millimeters wide. I guess 40 tall, 50 wide. Okay, so this is how it should look. At this point in time, this rectangle is all we need on this one first sketch here. What you need to do now is just hit finish sketch. So now our view has popped back to its default view. If you start rotating around, and you can rotate by holding shift and use that middle scroll wheel, okay, if you get totally lost as you're rotating around, all you need to do is hit the home button on your little nav ball up here and it will take you back to your home view. That scroll wheel is to zoom in and out as well, so that's very handy for this program. Okay, next up, we need to make this part 3D. So this is just a very simple extrusion. So with the extrusion, you could either click and drag and pull your parts up to make, a cube or something like that. We just want to make the first part of our box here, which is going to be 2 millimeters tall. That's it. Okay. So now we have a very flat rectangle. Let's just go back to our reference part here. That would be the base here that we've just made. Okay. So next up, back to our other part. Let's make the sides to this now. So with the sides, what I want to do, I want to start with a sketch. And now that we have our 3D part, you can either make a sketch on one of the planes, or we could just do it on top of the surface here of our other part. So try to click on the surface of your part here so that we're drawing on top of this part. Now, making a sketch, what I want to do, I want to measure out exactly how far away these uprights are going to be. That's what we're going to make next. So I want this to be centered. I want everything to be centered in this part. I want these to be a certain distance away from the center. So to do this, I'm going to make a line right now. And this line's just basically going to be a layout line. So from here, I'm going to go over, and this one's going to go 17 centimeters over. Okay? From that point there, 17 centimeters over, I now need to make a rectangle here. So we could do a 2-point rectangle. And from this point here, if you just kind of hover over this point and then move your mouse, I'm not clicking right now, I'm just kind of hovering. Okay, you see how you have this dotted line? That doesn't mean we've drawn a part in yet. I'm just using this as a layout. So click when that X is there on the line, drag it all the way up over to the other side here. I want this one to be the entire width of the part, and it's not snapping to the line unless you go right on that line there. So I want it to be 40 millimeters by 3. If it doesn't make it what you want, just type in 40 tab 3 and enter. Okay. So now we've got this thing. We need to make the same part on the other side. Except what I'm going to do, instead of making everything twice, I'm going to mirror everything after the fact. So right now with this one sketch, I'm just going to finish it. And then this part is going to get extruded. And let's pull this up Forget exactly how big it is. Let me just double check for a second. Going to inspect from, say, that plane to that one up there. It's 12 millimeters, so we're going to be going up 12 millimeters. So, oops, it finished my extrusion. So I'm going to edit this, do it again. Instead of 3 millimeters, I want that to be 12 millimeters up. Perfect. Okay, now we're starting to get there. Next up, I need to make a couple of, the parts that actually hold it. These are another couple little rectangles that we're just going to be extruding out. So back to our part here. I'm now going to make a sketch on this surface. Going to make another rectangle. It's going to go all the way across. So I want this one to be, I want it to be 2 millimeters tall. So I'm going to type in 2 tab 40, enter. That makes that. I'm going to make another one. Very similarly, the gap needs to be 2 millimeters in here. So what you could do to make sure that that gap's going to be 2 millimeters, just do a little construction line, 2 millimeters, okay, and then start a 2-point rectangle from that point that you just made, and pull it over to here, 2 by 40, perfect. Okay, finish the sketch. We now have two, looks like 3 rectangles actually. But what we're going to do is extrude this one and this one. Just click on both. And let's pull these out 2.5 millimeters. Okay. Now we're starting to get closer. At this point in time, this shape is sort of basically what I want it to be. But I want to add a couple of what's called fillets to it. So what a fillet does is it just adds like a neat little round over to a certain corner. So I'm going to do 2 different fillets here. This corner, the inside corner, and this top corner up here, you need to click on the edge. We're going to give them a 2 millimeter fillet. And you see what that does is it gives you like a nice little round, basically what this does is it helps your 3D printed part have a little bit of strength here. And this top part here is going to look a little bit less wonky. Let's do another fillet as well. And what this one's going to do, it's going to help us hold in these 2 little sort of tabs that's holding our circuit in there. I'm just going to give them 1 millimeter apiece. Okay, so now we got this nice little rounded kind of F shape going on. Okay, another thing that we need to do, we're going to need to make a hole around about here because this circuit holder needs to get screwed into the laser lantern. So let's make that. Again, we're measuring from the middle of the part here. So make another sketch on your part. The origin's right there, so it's really easy to make this work. We're going to make a line. The holes on the laser lantern are exactly 44 millimeters apart. So half of 44 is 22. So right there, you could just plunk your line down. You really don't need to put a line. All that we need is a point, really. So finish that sketch. And that point there, you could either draw in a circle and extrude the circle out, but you could also just make a hole. This is a fairly simple tool to just plunk a hole through the things that you want. Let's make the hole 2.5 millimeters wide. And that looks good just the way it is. So if you don't have that right size in there, you can just, oh, that's the depth. The depth doesn't really matter. What you want is the diameter of the hole. This one is the one that we want to be 2.5 millimeters. Okay. All right, so we've basically got half our part now. The only other part that I haven't drawn in yet is this big circle in the middle. We'll draw that one at the very last step. What we're going to do right now is mirror everything. So what we need to do is do underneath create. There is a mirror button. And there's lots of different things that you can mirror. So you want to make sure that you're on mirroring features, because what a feature is it's something that you've kind of like added to a body. So all of this extrusion, the fillets that we've added in here, these are all features that, and the hole, see if we can get this all at once. These are all features that we want to mirror. And the mirror plane, you need to select this. We're going to do it on this plane here. Now, if I did everything correct, of course. Try it again. What's the error? More. Compute failed. Sometimes it doesn't like to mirror the fillets, so maybe we'll just need to suppress them for a second and just not mirror those. Let's try it again. Mirror. We're going to mirror this feature on this plane. That worked. Try it again. We're going to mirror these features on that plane. Okay, I can figure that out. We're going to mirror the hole on that plane. Yeah. So then let's mirror the fillets on that plane. I just can't do that. Okay. Well then put in the fillets yourself. That would be this one, and this one are going to be 2 millimeters. And another fillet. Let's rotate around so we can see this line and this line are going to be 1 millimeter. Voila. Now, very close. All that we need to do is one last little thing. We need to put a hole in this part here. Let me just double check, see what the size is. I'm going to inspect from this side to this side. That one's 32. And from this line to that line, oops. It's going to be 28. So back in our part. Let's take us around to the home view. It was this way. We're going to make a sketch and draw in a center point rectangle because this is a centered part. And it was 28 tab 32. No, I think I got that wrong. I think it'd be 28 tab 32. Yeah, there we go. Finish the sketch. We're going to extrude this out. So an extrusion can add to a part. It could also cut away from a part. And we're going to add a few very simple fillets into these little corners here so that our shape doesn't look so square and blocky, and this is also going to help the 3D printing process. And these ones are going to be 12 millimeters. Voila! And we have our part. I think I did it in more steps this time than I did the last time. Still a fairly basic part. It's just basically a bunch of sketches and extrusions. So at this point, what you're going to want to do is save it. You're going to want to save something as a Fusion file. So I'm just going to call this lantern circuit holder. I'm going to save it in, doesn't really matter which folder I save it into. How about my first project? Sure. Now what I've just done is I've saved a version for myself to work on later on in time. This isn't quite the version that we want to print though. The thing that we need to actually print is a simplified version of this shape. So the way to do that, if you go into bodies, click on the little arrow beside it, and right click on body 1. This part needs to be saved as an STL. That's a very simple type of a 3D shape that the 3D printers can understand. So hit OK. This pops up. Save it as something. We're going to call this lantern circuit. Close enough, sure. Okay. Now the last step would be to actually slice your part. And I have other videos for this one, so I'm going to cut this video off here. But the basics of slicing a part is that you need to open a program called either Tinkerine Suite or Cura. It depends which printer you're going to use. So let's pull this in for a second. And let's just start a new project from here. You would basically just import your part. Okay, find your part. It was lanterncircuit.stl. That's the one. Your part's going to come in here. You need to print it like not in the middle of the bed. That's an important thing. You should check all of the settings before you hit go, like call the instructor over before you do that. But basically at this point you'd be hitting slice if everything is correct. Once it's sliced, you can see a preview of what's going to be built layer by layer. If it's going to respond any day now. There we go. So there, layer by layer is our part getting built up. If you had a card, you would just put the card in the machine, and then this little button would show up, save to external drive. You just click that button, and then take the SD card, put it into the printer, and hit print. Simple as that. All right, I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.